Hello, I'm Jason Jennings, and I want to take this opportunity to introduce Patrick Shaughnessy, President of AVI Communications. Patrick, as you probably know, is the producer of the Quantum series. But he's also spent his entire career in the broadcast business. Patrick began as an account executive in Omaha and went on to manage and own many successful stations, as well as serving as president of TM Communications in the 1980s. In 1991, he founded AVI Communications, which specializes in new business development. He's become a real expert in helping members of the electronic medium develop new business. In fact, you may have already had the pleasure of using some of AVI's products and services. Among them, their Creative Cell service, which develops ad campaigns for prospective advertisers, which thus far has generated over $20 million in brand new business for television just in the past 3 years. Because Patrick has had the opportunity of working with station management and sales staffs in all size markets, we asked him to share some of his thoughts on what he believes to be those ingredients important to one's success in business.
Congratulations, you finally made it. This is the last video in the series, I promise. Wow, I bet you're feeling exhausted from all the tests and the mind stretching you've done, but I'm sure you're also feeling a sense of exhilaration with the new knowledge you've acquired. After all, knowledge is power. But don't forget that practicing and then implementing what you've learned will be the two keys to your ultimate success with Quantum. Have you been wondering perhaps what per aspera ad astra means? Well, it's Latin, and it means through difficulties to the stars. I must admit I got a little help with that one from my former Latin teacher, Father Hindelang at Creighton Prep in Omaha. But I think it's apropos because mastery of the lessons in Quantum, while not easy, will put you in the upper 2% of account executives anywhere in the world. As you probably know by now, AVI produces and distributes new business development tools and services for electronic media. So I've had the good fortune of meeting and working with many account executives like yourself. And if you're a rookie, don't be surprised if you write business immediately after completing this course with Quantum. With Jason's first training series, I saw countless rookies write meaningful amounts of new business in their first few months on the job. Expect to win, and you will. Now, perhaps you're a veteran and wondering what you can expect. Well, I'm always reminded of the 15-year veteran AE from the Southeast who was a student of the first series and decided he would apply what he learned. He'd become bored taking orders from his established clientele, and in 2 months' time, he closed 8 of his first 10 new business prospects. In fact, he was so successful with Jason's training program that his group made a group purchase of the course and asked him to appear on a video, which they distributed to the rest of their stations. At the conclusion of this video and test, be sure and ask your sales manager for your certificate of completion. Now, let's get on with the subject matter of this video. We call it fine tuning, and we're going to focus on you and the little things that count big in presenting yourself as a professional. We've chosen to shoot this one at the Four Seasons Resort and Club in Irving, Texas, because when it comes to fine tuning and doing things right, nobody does it better than the Four Seasons. Their 5-star service and focus on the most minute of detail has made them renowned throughout the world. And to help guide us today, we've asked Kim Zoller to join us. Kim is the president of Image Dynamics, a Dallas-based professional development firm. She speaks nationally on the importance of professionalism in the workplace, including business etiquette, customer service, and effective communication. Kim works with companies such as Southwest Airlines, JCPenney, PageNet, and the Sewell Motor Company, just to name a few. Kim, it's nice to have you with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Patrick.
Kim, let's start with first impressions. How important are they?
First impressions are crucial, and it's amazing that within 7 seconds we make 11 first impressions. So from the minute you lay your eyes on someone, 11 things happen. They go from being clean, attractive, trustworthy, knowledgeable, responsive, friendly, helpful, empathetic, confident, courteous, and professional. So you can see that within that 7 seconds, people come up with many things. From head to toe, what does your hair look like? Are your clothes clean? Are they pressed? Is your tie clean? Is it long enough? Is your buckle polished on your belt? Is your skirt long enough? Are your pantyhose the right color? Do they have a run in them? A big thing that people look at are your shoes. Are they scuffed? Many times when people drive, they get the scuff mark on the bottom of their shoes. We need to be really careful with that. You could look beautiful. You could be dressed in a beautiful suit and have scuffed shoes. Makes a bad impression.
Kim, at the account executive level, we've got about a 50-50 ratio now of male and female. And, you know, there's a little confusion out there about who puts their hand out first, the man or the woman. Can you help us?
Today, it makes no difference. Whether you are a man or a woman, you put your hand out first. Make sure that your handshake is firm. We talk about those first impressions. If you do not have a nice, firm handshake, whether you are a man or a woman, it says that you're not very confident, not very happy to be there. Put your hand out first. Be confident. Shake a man's hand and a woman's hand very much the same way. Nice, firm grip.
Okay, as part of that grip, is there a particular way that you come together with the other hand?
You need to make sure that the web between the thumb and the forefinger goes all the way into the web of the other person's hand. All the way in, nice and firm. Fingers are together, not wide apart, and then cupped for a nice firm grip.
Kim, when it comes to third-party introductions, we've got a lot of them, where we might be introducing either a client to our boss or our boss to someone else. How do we handle these third-party introductions and do it with the correct protocol?
You ask yourself who is most important in that situation. Who is most important in a boss-client situation is the client. The easiest way to remember it is say their name first. So if your client was Patrick and your boss was Kim, you would say, Patrick, this is Kim.
As an account executive, you're going to find yourself taking clients to lunch and perhaps even entertaining in your home. So to best illustrate some of Kim's next points, we thought it would be fun to invite you to watch Tommy, a budding young account executive who's a little rough around the edges, have lunch with Patty, who's the owner of a chain of fine women's clothing stores. Now watch very carefully and see if you can spot some obvious and not so obvious mistakes.
One of the first things when you are scheduling lunch with a client and you know you're going to be late, call from your car phone, call a restaurant, and tell them to let the person know that you're going to be 5 minutes late. So when you come rushing in, they know that you were going to be late. When you sit down, just some key things, just watching Tommy and Patty. Your first course comes, the soup. It's obvious. Don't slurp with the soup. You can take your spoon away. You can really also take your spoon towards you. The main thing is that you don't splatter on yourself, and if you do spill on yourself, just always use old etiquette rules and take that spoon away from you. The main course comes. The knife and fork always stay fully on the plate, never resting on the plate and on the table. The napkin never goes back onto the table until you are completely done with the meal. If you excuse yourself, put it back into your chair. One thing that Tommy did was he cut up his food into lots of little pieces, which a lot of people do. One bite at a time. Cut the bite, then put it in your mouth. The lemon, put your hand over the lemon so that it doesn't go over everything. Maybe it's a pet peeve of mine, but one thing that drives me nuts is how people butter their rolls. You take the roll, you take the butter and put it on the bread plate. If you don't have a bread plate, you put the roll and the butter on your normal plate. You take a piece. The piece is going to be small enough to fit in your mouth. You butter only that piece and then put that in your mouth.
Kim, while we're talking about butter plates, now the butter plate is to your left, isn't it?
Yes, always to the left. And drinks are always to the right. Another thing that happens, and it happens every week at a banquet luncheon that I go to, people sit down and they don't know which napkin is theirs. It's already in the coffee cup and they're not sure which is theirs. It doesn't matter where the napkin is. Just remember, bread plates to the left, coffee cups to the right. Well, if you know that your coffee cup is to the right, your napkin is obviously on the right. A couple of other things that we saw Tommy do. Never, never, never take anything off a client's plate. I make it I guess a motto of mine that even if they offer, I don't take it off their plate. Just some little key things. Watch the rate that your client is eating at and go at that rate. You don't want to be much faster than they are, and you don't want to be too much slower. So just when you see that they're finished, maybe take another bite or two and finish yourself. Your napkin, back to your napkin, it's not supposed to be there to blow your nose in or wipe your entire face. You really just need to take your napkin up and blot it. Ladies, want to remember not to put your lipstick on at the table. Take it to the restroom. Make sure that you go away from the table. When you're finished with your meal, you want to make sure that your knife and your fork are together. The fork is on the left and the knife is on the right. The bottom of the knife and the fork, the stem, is in the 4 o'clock position, so it is slanting upwards towards the left of the plate. Some people place their tines down and some people place their tines up. It's really fine either way. This symbolizes to a good restaurant that you are finished and they can come and pick up the plate. If your knife and your fork are open, it says, I'm not finished yet, I'm still working on it. One other tip before we end with dining out that is very helpful when taking a client out, and that is let your client face the direction where there's movement and action and there's the best view. Let your client look at everything. You want to make sure that you're not looking at everything and that your eyes aren't roaming, that you're looking directly at your client.
Kim, let's if we can, go from the meal in a restaurant to the home and entertaining in your home. I know many of our account executives and certainly our managers out there do a fair amount of entertaining in the home. And I know there's some do's and don'ts to that. Would you care to elaborate?
Sure. First of all, entertaining in the home, the more personal that you can be with your clients, the more rapport you build, just takes you a step further. When you entertain in your home, one fun thing, if it's not a very formal meal, is to have name tags, because it just gets everyone to know who everyone else is. You as the host or hostess need to make sure that you are standing close to your front door so that really you're greeting all your guests and that other guests are not greeting the guests. Make sure that you're offering drinks. If you have hors d'oeuvres, make sure that they are small enough that someone can pick them up in one hand and not be spilling.
Kim, what hand do you hold your drink in?
You want to make sure that you hold your drink or your food in your left hand so that you can shake with your right hand. You also want to make sure that you fill that wine glass up only about 3/4 of the way, otherwise it may end up on your carpet. Another thing with the sides is you need to make sure that your name tag is on your right side, on your right shoulder, because the eye goes from the fingertips all the way to the right shoulder, makes it very easy to read the name tag.
Is it incumbent upon the host or the hostess to make sure that the people have their drinks filled?
Absolutely. You never want to have a customer, client, guest have to ask for a refill. It's your responsibility to go and ask them. Now, if you see that someone's drinking a little too much, you can just refrain from asking them.
I think we call that in the business, he or she was slightly overserved.
And you know, the worst thing about being slightly overserved is that everyone remembers it the next day and from then on. One point I do want to mention that most people do not do, and that is write thank you notes. Any kind of note that you can write just says it is personal, it's being a little more personable.
Let's move on to the ever-changing world of electronic communications. There's so much to cover these days that didn't exist 5-10 years ago. Talk to us about it.
Let's start with email. Most of us have email today. The worst is when you get these random messages from everyone. If you're sending email, send it with a purpose. We don't like to read all the little bits of information. Everyone's too busy for that. Don't capitalize all the letters in your email. One, it sounds like you're yelling at the person. Two, it's frustrating because it's very difficult to read.
What about voicemail?
Voicemail. Well, we get all sorts of messages. The rambling message that goes on and on and on.
I'm guilty.
It's so frustrating to be listening to that. I know that if you're like me, you get so many voicemails a day. Keep the voicemail short, sweet, to the point. Always state who you are. Do it slowly, the reason why you're calling, and then leave your number at the end and make sure that you're saying it very slowly so that the person can write it down. Because even though they have your number, they may not want to go look at it right away, which means that your call will not be returned quickly.
Let's move on to cellular phones. Almost everybody that I know seems to have a cellular phone these days, and I think one of our challenges is to keep the phone bills down.
Right.
But aside from that, what's good etiquette when it comes to cellular telephones?
Well, there are a couple of things, and I'll talk about the cellular telephone as well as the pager. With the cellular telephone and the pager, if you're with a client, make sure that it is on vibrate. There is nothing worse than having a pager go off or a cellular telephone start ringing. Immediately your client thinks, well, shouldn't they get that? So always keep it on vibrate or keep them in your briefcase away. Cellular telephones, if you're in someplace public, go someplace remote and talk on the telephone. No one really wants to hear your conversation. I know that when I'm sitting in the middle of an airport and I'm sitting right next to someone who's having a conversation with their office or their significant other, it's driving me crazy. So go someplace where you're not in everyone's space. Back to the pager. If you're sitting there and it goes on vibrate and you're in an important meeting, don't even look at the pager. Wait until the meeting is finished and then look at it. Any time that you can say to a customer, you are the most important thing right now, you are making an impression. The minute you say, well, I have other things that are as important, you're really making an impression too, and not a very good one. The last thing as far as technology goes that I do want to mention, that is a fax machine. We do a lot of faxing these days. Make sure, a couple of things, that if it's a floor fax, meaning if the fax is going to just a random fax machine, is it okay to fax to that number? Or would they like you to fax to a more private number? Call before you send the fax and call when you have sent it to make sure that they have received it. And don't fax a book.
Kim, back to the pager for a moment. If you have someone paged, it's important for you to stay off the phone, isn't it?
Great point. If you page someone, stay off the phone for 5 minutes. If they haven't called you back within 5 minutes, you can assume that they are tied up at the moment. But stay off your phone for 5 minutes. There's nothing more frustrating than calling someone back and the line being busy.
Is there anything else that you would like to add to this wonderful segment?
I think to sum everything up, we need to realize that we live in a very competitive world. And you have to figure out ways that are going to set you apart. And whether it's your dress, the way that you eat, the way that you entertain, the way that you carry yourself to say, I'm confident, to the shaking of someone's hand, to making sure you make eye contact. to the things that you do in your job that are done well. What is going to set you apart? That's what you need to figure out. To sum it up, what is going to set you apart?
What's your trademark?
That's right.
Kim, this has been wonderful. Thank you very, very much. This concludes our segment on etiquette, and coming up, part 2, Heroes and You. In virtually every sport and profession, success is achieved by doing many things just a little bit better than the competition. For example, Kim talked earlier about the importance of thank you notes, and you'll soon learn your clients appreciate a congratulatory note too, especially when they have a major announcement or a nice write-up in the newspaper. They don't soon forget those gestures. But next time you have the opportunity, spend $50 and have the article matted and framed. And I promise, they'll remember you for a lifetime. Little things count big in golf too. The difference between winning and losing is often just a stroke or a matter of inches. As you may know, the Four Seasons plays host to the Byron Nelson Golf Classic each year, and you're looking at the statue of the legend himself, Byron Nelson. AVI has had the good fortune of syndicating Byron's golf tips on television, and in the process learned that Byron is not only a great golfer, but he's a hero and shining example of how to live a value-based life, as Jason outlined in Volume 3. In 1 year, now I said 1 year, Byron won 18 tournaments, 11 of them in a row. Many say these 2 records will never ever be broken. However, Tiger Woods may be just the one to challenge those records. European golfer Alan Doyle says what he really likes about Tiger is that he knows he's a long way from where he wants to go. In golf and in sales, the way you get better is by knowing you're never quite there. Tiger's parents say they never had to tell Tiger to practice. Their challenge was getting him to stop and come home. Tiger's passion for the game and relentless practice have already paid off in millions of dollars. But he knew that would happen. His number 1 goal is to become the Michael Jordan of golf. How about you? What are your goals? Are they specific? Are they in writing? And do you refer to them often? What about practice? Are you practicing your selling skills on an ongoing basis? You can be assured that the quality of your life will be in direct proportion to your commitment to excellence. As Jason pointed out in the media volume, converting newspaper dollars is where you'll find lots of opportunity. Here's another little thing that can set you apart. When preparing annual presentations, spend a few hours at the library. You'll find they'll have your local newspaper's entire year of advertising stored on microfiche and/or computer disks. This will give you a concise look at the total size of your prospect's newspaper budget. It'll also give you the knowledge of their annual sale events. It's going to be obvious to your prospect when you make your presentation that you invested some quality time on their behalf. Joe Paterno, one of the winningest coaches in college football, once said, "The will to win is important, but the will to prepare to win is vital." Another little thing that can count big is how you view yourself. I'd like to challenge your conventional thinking and ask you to think of yourself as a virtual corporation. In other words, shift the paradigm just a little bit, and in your own mind, think of yourself as being in business as an entrepreneur. Now, I'm not advocating that you say adios to the boss, but merely challenging you to think like a CEO. Let me give you an example. In an earlier video, Jason pointed out the importance of creative when you make your presentations. When I got started in the business as an account executive, my boss mandated that we made 2 presentations a week with creative. Now, I soon found out how important good creative was in making a sale. But I also found myself standing in line for production and sometimes didn't receive it on time. Now, your station may or may not have a creative services department, but here's what I did to resolve the situation. I went out and I made my own deal with a good freelancer. I agreed to pay him a certain amount for each spec spot he did, and if I made a sale, then he received twice the amount. It was a win for the client, it was a win for the freelancer, and it was a win for me. Now, my fees to the freelancer were tax deductible, and I soon became the top biller. At AVI, we've taken the same idea and generated millions of dollars in new business for general market and Hispanic stations. We call it the Creative Cell. The stations provide us with their prospects, and we create ad campaigns to get them on the air. Dale Carnegie said, "A presentation without a demonstration is conversation." And I like to say, a presentation without a demonstration is absolutely boring. But either way, I hope you get the point. Your presentations come alive with ideas, and ideas will help your advertisers cut through the clutter and get results. Now, let's go back to this CEO idea and carry it just a little bit further by suggesting you do your own personal business plan. Joe Jones, Inc. Plan to invest a percentage of your income in at least 3 areas. Join a health club and work out regularly to stay in top physical condition. Allocate an appropriate amount to clothing and grooming so you always look like someone worth listening to. And finally, continue to invest your own time and money in staying abreast of the industry and the sales profession. When you do that, you get a byproduct. And what is it? It's called enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is 50% of the sale, and nothing worthwhile has ever been achieved without it. It's like a ripple in the water. It spreads. And with enthusiasm comes what? Comes a positive attitude. And with the right attitude, you can achieve all the altitude in life that you want. You're in a great business. It's a business where you can earn lots of money and have fun every step along the way. Its only constant is change. In fact, over the next few years, we will witness more changes than our predecessors witnessed in their entire career. Opportunities and new heroes will abound. My good friend Jackson Brown, the author of many best-selling books, including Life's Little Instruction Book, Live, Learn, and Pass It On, A Father's Book of Wisdom, and others, also wrote A Hero in Every Heart. And in the introduction, he said the following.
For centuries, we've used the exemplary lives of heroes to teach us the benefits of persistence and commitment. And with today's creeping cynicism and irreverence, the model of the hero becomes more important than ever. Heroes personify the best of what we want to believe about ourselves and offer proof that our grandest goals are achievable. There is something in our spirit that longs to be elevated to new heights of purpose. Extraordinary achievements never fail to inspire us to raise our own sights and to color outside the lines. The celebration of heroes, we discover, is ultimately the celebration of our own potential.
For Jason Jennings and all the wonderful people associated with the making of Quantum, I'd like you to challenge yourself, not to be just the best, but to become a hero at work, a hero to your family, and a hero to yourself. In closing, here are a few passages from Jackson Brown's A Hero in Every Heart.